okay, I want to go to question and answers because some of his questions and answers are really, really good in this book.
Yeah, and they're also good online, and I have them.
I have them
Yeah.
too, but I can't find it's somewhere in my files. I don't know where they are.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but
Don't
you know
mind me.
what? If you have it, maybe I think I have it on my phone. So anyway,
Okay.
yeah, there's a lot of question and answers. Like one is false versus true empathy. You know, I want to learn from him because of the consistency. He's so like, you know, I was listening to somebody last night. It was that guy, Anthony Gold, and he was saying that he went to see Ken and he was next to him and you could feel his vibration. That's how powerful it was.
Wow.
Now, he's the third person that has told me that, you know. So obviously Ken never talked about it. He had the most beautiful humility. And that is what I need. That is my lesson, humility. I don't know a thing.
Yeah. I don't think Ken knew the difference. I don't think that Ken actually experienced himself as being different than anyone else. In fact, I think Ken experienced himself truly as being the same as everything and
Right.
everyone.
Yes.
That's that's what I strive for, is to remember my sameness, because all the differences are those
Yes.
are easy to point out. The sameness is, those are the things that really we need to be looking for. So so yeah, whatever it is you guys want to read, go right on
Well, it's
ahead.
up to Mark. You'll pick out something you want to read. I just want to read this because I came to it.
Well,
This,
I have it here, so I can also read.
yeah, okay.
You
That's
want.
not, well, I went to 93, but I want you to be able to do stuff too. And where's Karen? Is she on or no?
Yeah, Karen's right here. Yeah, I see her.
I know, but I
She's
don't,
on the list.
yeah, I just don't hear her.
You
Look at
read
her.
as far as 93?
Well, no, I didn't read the whole book. I just always do stuff like that because I want to,
Oh, okay.
like I'll just say, Spirit, just show
Oh,
me
I
where.
see where you are. We can read that. I mean, yeah,
Yeah. All
that's
right.
fine.
Anyway, because I always want to know like what he's really saying here. So, false versus true empathy. Question: how does one right-mindedly see someone who appears to be in pretty bad situation, like returning from the war with post-traumatic stress disorder? I see their pain, know that their minds are choosing fear that manifests the symptoms, but at the same time, the Course teaches that on another level, all that is part of ourselves. I get confused with these different levels. Welcome to my world. And then he answers, as a neuropsychologist, you deal with people with traumatic symptoms, vets returning from Iraq with brain injuries and the like. Certainly, if you are a professional with expertise in a certain area, you respond in a way appropriate to your role. On one level, you use your training and experience to make an evaluation and the extent of the injury, the prognosis, and a useful course of treatment, including working with the family. This is no different from a plumber making an assessment about plumbing problem in a home or business and then proceeding to correct it. On another level, at the same time that you proceed professionally, you use the situation as a way of monitoring your thoughts. You watch yourself become horrified by the situation. Perhaps a particular symptom is abhorrent to you, or you become impatient with the person, angry at the system that does not allow proper care or treatment, or even angry at the president who declared war and thus is ultimately responsible for the terrible effects. Whatever your ego reactions, this is what you pay attention to. Um, in Roman mythology, the god Janus is depicted with two heads, one looking east, the other looking west. In a sense, Jesus is asking us to have this kind of split vision. Now, this is really interesting because that's come up a lot lately when I was just, looking at different teachings. Like, you always see the truth. So whenever I roll back, and if I'm not consistent, the thoughts will just come in. And so just looking at, the center, the quiet center, the part of us that's just this simple, ordinary awareness, because that's really all that's here. It's presence. So, it's kind of like when he's saying you're going on two different levels, you want to meet that person where they are on the level 2, but on the level 1, you want to see yourself in them as they truly are. So it says, in Roman mythology, the god Janus is depicted with two heads. Oh, we already read that. Looking one way, we honor and respect our professionalism and deal with the situation on this level. Looking the other way, we monitor our own reactions, and we are feeling anything but peace, perceiving and feeling anything other than shared interests in terms of ourselves and the patient, even though on the bodily level, there's a big difference. Then we know we have to ask for help because now we are as sick as the person whom we are trying to help. This is very good. This reflects the course's distinction between false and true empathy. False empathy identifies with the patient's weakness or problem, the body. Now, I do that a lot. I do that with myself. I do that with people in form. And now I'm being called to sit back and realize that the only thing, because I have this autoimmune thing now, and it's driving the body mind crazy because it's itching everywhere. And so, I'm asking inside today, what do I do? And when I came on, Lynn had said she looks at sameness. And that's basically what we have to do. We have to look at everything here is just one essence being lived by the divine. And the ego is just the chatty Cathy in the mind. But even those thoughts, even though they're meaningless, they're still part of the dream. And the dream, the essence of the dream is God, even though some people say it's consciousness. But I would believe that everything is God because there can't be anything here that's not. I mean, now we could say, well, look at all the things happening and the horrific things. And he's going to go on and talk about it. He's saying here that this reflects the course's distinction between false and true empathy. False empathy identifies with the patient's weakness or problem, the body, isolating the person from others, including ourselves, by virtue of horrific symptoms that clearly make patients and their problems unique and special. True empathy identifies with our common purpose. We empathize with the patient's mind, which suffers from the effects of an insane belief in separation, as we all do. And that's really the belief. That belief is ingrained in the system of the one son. So of course we're going to have ego show up. And what did you say the other day, Marcy? Like, I did it again. I just did it.
Oops, I did it again. The Brit, is that Britney
Okay.
Spears?
Oh, you're raising your hand. Okay. I'm so glad you raised your hand. Okay. All right, let's go.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I was thinking, well, I'll tell you what happened this morning.
Okay.
It was another new one. I was driving my daughter to school, and I've been doing that this whole year. Not so much bringing her home, but driving her there and dropping her up. So she likes to leave a little later than I do. So my comfort level is a little messed up because I don't want her to be late. And I completely missed the turn. Like all of a sudden, I just passed it. I didn't have my signal on, and I told her she's supposed to be my co-pilot. And if I'm screwing up, tell me or something. And then I just heard a mom. I'm like, what? And then I noticed I missed the exit. So then it screwed up because I have nowhere else to go but go around the block and
Right.
try to get in the parking lot. And she's having a fit because she's going to be late. And I'm like, well, the blamey part came out, and I'm like, well, if only you had left, if only we could leave at 7:30. That's my goal. And we never do. It's always like 7:45. So yeah, you are bound to be late at some point, although it was my daydreamy, whatever was going on with me, I just, I used to go there. I used to take her to a different school near there. So maybe I thought that's where I was going. I have no clue. But
Right.
there was, I got the blame, and um then I got defensive, and then I was like, well, that's how my head works sometimes, and I need you as my my co-pilot. And all I got was a lot of moaning from her. But I mean, it was probably too much from her because she was already upset. But I mean, I do hang on to that. I do feel handicapped now in terms of, Lynn mentioned vestibular stuff, and I'm started therapy again for vestibular stuff.
What is this? I don't know what that is. What is that?
It's balance stuff, right, Lynn?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so
It comes from the nerves in your ears, the vestibular
yeah,
nerves. Yeah.
It's the idea originally from the car accident where my head went boom, 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 boom. And then I mentioned to Sharon that I had, what did I have, Sharon? I dehydrated myself accidentally, and then I got vertigo. They seem to go together.
Yeah.
We're trying to discover if I needed therapy for the ears and the ear crystals, and they don't think I do, but I need vestibular therapy now. So yeah, I don't want to blame myself. I didn't cause the accident. It's just what happened in form, but then I hang on to it,
I do too. I mean, at times. Here's the thing. It's all part of it, I think, because
Right.
like what did oops, I did it again because it's so important to honor the whole being. And when the being is going through so much stress, to then, double dip with the ego just makes it worse. So it's so important. I talk to Sharon, like I'm the spirit. I just say, Sharon, ideas don't leave their source. But yeah, I do understand that the ego pops out. I have been itching all night, and I heard the ego going, "Oh, it's never going to stop. It's just never going to stop. It's going to be like this forever." And then I realized, out of bed and do whatever you can right now to just look at what's true. And that's really the lesson, is to watch our mind. But
Yeah.
it's hard, like if you're driving your daughter, it's early in the morning. So it's just a forgiveness opportunity.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
you
But I
know,
have to get, the ego gets mad at it, at me. It's like,
I know.
whose fault is it? We
I
don't
would
call
like to
somebody to
know from
blame
Lynn.
immediately.
Lynn is really, she has so many things and she handles it with such grace. So I would like to learn this because, I tend to be dramatic, I tend to, what I tend to, she's coming maybe from the right mind and I'm coming from the little girl that says, I don't want to be
Yeah.
sick.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's that welcoming thing. It's really hard to welcome the
Right.
dizziness and the
Yeah, but it
spinning.
changes. It's when you say welcome it, all these feelings just kind of dribble away. I wonder if you could just say welcome it all day long. Welcome it, welcome it. Because it's almost like we are actually putting a thing on, like stop. And as soon as we do that, we just stepped on our brakes of our car and we're going to jerk.
Right.
Because the body is nothing but a car that we get right around in. So, yeah, so it's just as easy does it. Because let's face it, as you are doing the ego, it does get more vicious. It does. It starts to really pound you because it doesn't want to lose you as a student of nothing. you know, it wants you to. Okay, so he's saying here. Do you know what page where I am? You want to read on You want to read on
We're
95?
95.
To digress for a moment.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
To digress for a moment, the pamphlet on psychotherapy, which I mentioned before, was only half finished when I first read it. I was obviously expecting something that would talk about psychotherapy, at least as I experienced it as a therapist. Of course, it doesn't do that at all. Its focus is only on the therapist. I remember saying something to Helen to that effect. And she looked at me and said, "What else would you expect?" Which of course was true. There is one line in the pamphlet that sums it up, and it is so important that the idea is repeated in the very next paragraph. It is in the instant that the therapist forgets to judge the patient that healing occurs. This does nothing about the patient, nothing about the course of psychotherapy, nothing about technique, nothing about nothing about training in the usual sense of the word. The second statement, yet it is when judgment ceases that healing occurs, means that therapists with healed minds do not see their patients as separate from themselves. When we see someone who has a profound neurosis or brain injury, it is tempting to see a difference and judge that difference, even if it is a benign judgment. Oh, you poor dear, let me help you. When the therapist forgets to judge, forgets to see separate interests, and sees only the sameness of the mind, that is healing and true empathy. As the therapist or healer in any shape or form, professional or not, when you find yourself making a judgment that the person sitting across from you is different, not in form, which is obvious, but in content, you realize that your mind is unhealed and you are an unhealed healer. At that point, anything you do will be contaminated by what is unhealed in you, which is the belief that separation is real, making serious your sleeping guilt and misperception of your patient. This is false empathy. Being a psychotherapist, neuropsychologist, or any other role is its sole purpose learning to heal your mind through that form, which means it is the opportunity to undo your belief in guilt. If you do not see it that way, you will be caught in specialness and will think you are doing something important, significant, and healing. What then is to be done? There is nothing to be done. Healing has already occurred and needs only to be accepted.
Perfect. So what he's giving us basically is like when this happens, we meet, like, as a professional, the professional is going to meet that patient exactly through the knowledge that he'd acquired as a doctor or whatever, teacher, whatever. But then you just turn to the Christ, because it's right here, and you realize only God is real, because that's the truth. Oh, Lynn wants to talk. Good. Let me hear you talk. I want.
Okay, thank you.
I would really want to share this whole thing because I want to learn. This is like for all of us to learn, especially now.
Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, this is so beautiful, and you remember what I was saying earlier about just seeing the sameness. This is
Right.
what Ken is talking about. It's not. It's it's taking responsibility for sight, which is something, of course, we've been talking about like a lot lately. Why is this person presenting to me in this way? This person is presenting to me in this way because I have asked to see something about my own thinking, my own mind, the decisions I'm making,
Right.
I've asked to see myself. So you're my mirror, Marcy. Marcy,
Yes.
you are my mirror. That was her screen name for a long time. I don't know if you still use that,
Yeah.
but I love that. And so if the person comes to me with a problem, a situation, a health issue, whatever, I look at it now and say, what is it in me that's calling for this? As in, what do I need to see about my own thinking that is being presented to me in this apparently other person with a, maybe apparently different symptom, and yet it's the same thing. So Ken, as a psychotherapist, had learned to that if someone came to him with some kind of neurosis, some kind of paranoia, whatever anger, fear, whatever it is that they came to him with, he would look at himself and see, where am I doing this same thing? And recognizing that it was him, it was he who was the source of that in his own mind, when he could then not look at his patient and say, boy, are you screwed up? He looked at himself and said, I'm doing the same thing. We're the same. And That's one of my favorite lines in the whole course, is that the healing occurs when the therapist looks at the patient and without judgment and doesn't judge them, because that's what causes the healing, is the dropping of judgment. And when I don't judge you, and I'm not judging myself, then healing can begin. Otherwise, it's just going to be a, uh, uh, a a guessing game. What's gone wrong? What's happening here? Why is this happening? We spend so much time in our lives asking the question, why is this happening?
Right.
Why? Oh, because my mother was mean to me, because my father molested me, because the teachers at school were rude to me, because my boss was. That's not the reason. That's not the reason that I'm feeling the way that I'm feeling or thinking the way that I'm thinking. It has nothing to do with anything or anyone else. It has to do with what it is I'm calling to myself to heal. And so, we can drop all the past. We can drop all those ideas of here's how I got here, because how I got here is irrelevant. Where I think I am now is the only thing that really matters. And if I can just see that, this is a lesson, and I'm here to learn it, and what is the purpose of it, is to show me something about my own thinking that I need to look at,
Can you give
and
me an
I need to let
example?
go of.
Can you give me an example of that? Like, what would you be thinking? To me, I thought it was always just separation. So I want to kind of learn,
Well, the separation is a big thing. All right,
right.
it's a very general thing. The separation is a very general thing. Um, let's see, something, look, my friend comes to me and says, I'm having a hard time because my children are not talking to me. And so instead of saying, "Oh, what happened and what's wrong and how did you get there and what did what happened and can we fix this? Can we fix this?" What I look at is, what can be in my mind that's preventing communication between myself and, my children, just for an example. And then I look at that. Instead of looking at what's wrong with my friend, I look at what's going on in my mind. Where did I cut them off when they were trying to tell me something that they thought was important? Where did I not listen fully when they were in pain? Where did I, whatever it is, I look at myself for where am I doing the same thing? How is this same thing happening in me? And work to heal it in myself, let
Mhm.
go of it in myself. And when I let go of it in myself, the problem doesn't exist. The only reason the person came to me with the problem was because I have the same thing. We are in the same boat. So, I and it doesn't matter. Whatever it is, somebody comes to you and says, whatever it is, or you think yourself, this is something that's going wrong and happening. Look to your own thinking to see
Right.
where you're doing it yourself. Because once you see where you're doing it yourself, then the Holy Spirit doesn't have to point it out to you anymore. They're only here for the Holy Spirit to point out to me, here's what you're doing, Lynn. And so it's all personal. Every single thing that happens comes to me is personal to me, and I see it as, where am I doing the same thing? Anyway, that's my
Can I ask you one more question? How do you look at your illnesses? Do you look at your illnesses because you're still seeing separation, or do you
no.
look,
I look at my illnesses that I think I'm a body.
right?
The
Okay.
body itself is, it's doing its thing. It's
Right.
like looking at erosion on a hill when the grass has been, eaten down by cows or something, looking at, the weather changing. It's I'm looking at something that is not related to me at all. Illnesses have nothing to do with me.
Right.
This is
So
this
the
is
thing
the
is, like when
condition
Ken,
of the body.
right, when Ken got cancer, it wasn't like he saw separation. It was just part of the body's life because it's a script. Whatever
It's a
happens,
script. Yeah.
Yeah. So the script is the script. It doesn't matter. Because, a lot of people, not just course people, when they're talking about awakening, they said, well, you heal everything. And I think Kate Greaves had said that. I don't know if that I heard that from her or if I just imagined it. But I don't know if anyone can completely, because everything is a script, in body form, not in anything else.
Yeah, the only healing that ever actually comes is knowing that you're not the body, knowing that you're not that. I'm not this.
Everything. I'm not even here, right? Just because what's here, it's just the mind. Because the truth of who we are stays consistent with just awareness,
Yeah, it never changes. It can't
right?
because it's the truth.
Right. Right.
Marcy has her hand up.
Yeah, let Marcy go now. Yeah.
Okay. I had a couple thoughts. One was I was just very grateful that he mentions when we see someone who has a profound neurosis or brain injury, and I was like, Ken wrote that? How did
How do you
I
know
mean,
about
when
you?
you're working with somebody with a brain injury and you haven't had a brain injury, um, I see a difference, although like everybody probably has glitches that happen in their brain, so it's relatable. And then I could look for the exact quote in the course, but it's the way I remember it is what I accuse someone else of, I first accused me of. So whenever I accuse my brother, I first accused myself of the exact same thing, but not so much in form necessarily.
Well, when you say you accuse, is it like you see, because you accuse your brother because you're both, because our thoughts are joined.
Well,
Yeah.
well, no, they're not joined when I'm in my ego.
Yeah,
So
but
if
they're
I
still
get pissed,
getting I think we're all getting the same ego, but it just looks manifest differently.
yeah, but so my interpretation of that is special because it's my interpretation. Like somebody else you might have a different interpretation of the same experience I just had.
Right.
But I
Right.
made a personal accusation to that person and said, you don't listen to me. That's an example. You don't listen to me. You don't respond in a way that's helpful to me. And have I done that? Either of those things or both? Yes. Yes, I have. And there are times when I can't hear anybody else around me because I'm too busy accusing them.
Right. Right.
Right.
You
And,
know,
and the word accuse doesn't mean that I'm pointing the finger and saying that you're wrong. It's
right. It's
I'm
my
pointing
own
the
judgment.
finger and saying you're different. You're separate. You're
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
That's accusing. Just saying you're not like me. We're
Yeah.
different.
You want
Yeah.
to come back to always the fact that we are all the same. That's the sameness. And also, I think you want to come back to forgiveness is just looking and not judging. That's it. Like it's just look at it and say, oh, it is what it is, because it's an isness.
Yeah.
And
It's
like
observation.
Mhm.
Sharon and I were talking the other day, and you know, do I leave my husband? Do I stay here? And I've already decided, I guess I'm staying here. know? Um, but
I don't,
it's,
does Lynn know that that you have issues with him or no?
pardon me?
I guess you told Lynn too that you had issues with him, right?
I don't know. I assume she knows.
I've known
Probably.
Marcy for a long time. I don't think this
Right,
is
right, right, right,
anything new.
right,
Yeah. Yeah. There's really no surprises here.
right.
But, but then when I think about what I accuse him of, I can't that word, for some reason that word works for me. So you can change it however you want to do it. Whatever I say about my brother is what I'm saying about myself, because that's the only perception I have is my perception. So I judge him for certain things, and then I can't say that I never did those things. I can't say that sometimes when I'm upset, or most times when I'm upset, I'm a bit distant. And I'm working on trying to get through that and not have to go to the distance thing so quickly so that I could express myself. And it isn't always received the way I hope, but that's what I get to look at.
Exactly. Exactly. It's
Yeah,
what you
because
get to look at.
and so so when you don't get what you hoped, you just let it go, right? Is that how you grow
Well,
through?
I look at what I do, how I am the same as the person
Right.
have this judgment of, because it's
Yeah.
me. I'm accusing me of something, but I'm seeing it over there,
Right. Right.
Yeah,
which is
and that's
bizarre.
why, I mean, it's so easy to say, well, let's just, get rid of you and get a new one that won't do those things because the new one's going to do the same thing.
Yeah,
You're
but
never
in some
going to get
sneaky
away from it
different
because,
form.
yeah, say, yeah, yeah, because it's all me.
It's all
Right,
you. Yeah.
right. And I won't notice it in the beginning because it'll seem like a little fluky thing. And it's like, oh, that's nothing. And then it gets bigger and bigger.
Yeah,
It's
and it's like,
crazy.
it's so hard. Like if you're caught in that moment where you just love the rage, because you do. I mean, let's face it, we are used to a whole different thought system that
Yeah.
really amps us up.
Yeah.
So it's like a machine that just goes. So you have to kind of stay. And I'm at a point now where I just don't want the ego. Suffering is part of the path, and I feel at this point, why suffer? Let's just practice, practice,
Right.
practice.
Right.
Otherwise, I'm going to suffer because I do, because I believe my thoughts. And you know what I see how much the ego relishes in being the ego, like in sympathy, like, oh, you don't feel good, that kind of thing. And now, like, it's like, no, 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 I feel fine. I'm fine. I am
Yeah.
fine.
And it's just some thought just went through my head and I hope I can capture it while it's in there moving. Is that welcoming? Because sometimes I get all judgmental about, when I hear, can I welcome it? And
So do
it's
I.
not really that I'm welcoming the painful part, but I'm welcoming the ability to know that that is just my projection and I need to look at it.
Right.
It doesn't solve anything majorly other than that I'm willing to go, oh yeah, oops, I did it again.
Right.
I let the ego run the show. And my rage is so important in certain moments, that I want to let it out and let somebody know I'm really mad at you. And then I'm
Right.
like, well, now I have to know I'm really mad at me too, because they're my mirror. So
Right.
Yeah.
And that can put you into such a spiral of guilt and shame and
yeah,
whoops, I did it again, instead of just saying that's pretty funny.
yeah,
It's a joke, we
yeah.
we go,
Well, oops,
oh,
I
this
did.
is
Oops is
serious.
like it was an oops.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't that I find funny because I have a version of that song with Richard Thompson singing it, and it's much funnier when he sings it than when Britney Spears sings it.
Oh, and she does it. Well, the kids love her. They just love
Yeah, yeah. But it's if you can handle certain words that might be, they might carry judgment, then yeah, that's kind of hard. But I just it makes me laugh. Like how many years do you do this? Well, apparently this many.
Right.
her.
And it's like being caught in a loop over and over and over. And
Yeah,
and that's, what I came really to see. Wherever you go, there you are. So, they didn't like this over here, so I'm going to go over there. And what, they don't like it here either, then I'm going to go
yeah,
here. What, they don't like it here either? What is wrong with all these people? Never once thinking, oh, it's me,
right.
and oh my God, it's me. That's, Cheryl Valentine's book. And it's all about, it is me. I'm the only one. So you guys are
You're the
my
only one,
ones
even
right
like
now.
when you think something's going on, well, let's just say in China or wherever, it's your thought and judging it, and then the story comes out. And what I'm trying to say is, it doesn't matter where you live. If you see a thought, it's your thought if you believe it. That's really what it is, right? Would you say that's true?
Yeah, exactly. Well, it can't be anybody else's.
Hmm.
Where else could it be? The only thing that can be is what's coming out of my own thinking. So,
See, that's where
whatever it appears
observing
to
has
be.
to come in. Observing,
Right.
it's everything. When you observe, you just observe. But sometimes the ego gets restless when you're observing. Oh, come on, you know how you feel. Anyway, Mars, take a section of the book because I want Lynn to join too.
Okay. So wait, what am I doing?
Um,
Uh,
Pick what
are
you
you
like.
reading another question or did we finish that one?
Yeah, are we done with that one, Karen?
Well,
Sharon?
the MP, yeah, because what he's saying basically is you never lose your professionalism
Yeah.
and you honor that. but at the same time, you see the truth. That's just, me being not long-winded. I love Ken Wapnick so much, but he goes on and on, which is, he does it for a reason, because we
Yeah.
learn by repetition. That's why he's doing it, I think. That man
Well,
was a,
the thing is, it's like, remember, and I'm sure you do, or when we did Ho'oponopono. Ho'oponopono, what is that? That's taking responsibility for what I see. So, if
Mm.
I see something that appears to be upsetting me, go into, I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. That's a real simple little 4 lines of of code there that bring it back to me that
Yeah.
this is happening because it's in my mind. And when I heal my mind, Ho'oponopono is great for healing your mind about things because it brings it right back to it's me who's the one who's responsible for what it is that I'm looking at. So yeah,
I
anyway,
never took that really. I said it, and it works. But the guy that, what's his name, Joe?
Joe Dispenza and Hugh Land, Dr. Hugh Land.
No, the one that did Opponent. It wasn't Dispenza. It was
That's
another.
Dr. Hugh Land, but Joe Dispenza is the Joe Dispenza.
Okay, because when you do that, whoever the guy that it came out with, I didn't know. Maybe it's Hugh Lin. You're right, but whatever it was, they woke up that way. They said it all day long, all day
Yeah,
long.
yeah, absolutely. Because it doesn't if all you're doing is bringing it back to your own self and forgiving it, bring it back to my own self and forgive it, love it, forgive it,
Right.
let it go, that that brings it to personal responsibility.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
at personal responsibility, that's where it's healed. It's not healed anywhere else, and it can't possibly be healed anywhere else because my mind is the only place where it is. That's the only place where a problem is.
Yeah.
Otherwise, everything's perfect.
You sound so clear. Now you probably do this a lot, Lynn, because you don't complain. Like, yeah, and you can't feel good all the time because your body's going through different things. You know.
Yeah, no, I can't complain. How can I complain? What can I complain?
Right.
The sky is blue. Oh no. My back hurts. Oh, it's all the same thing.
Right.
There's no difference between it.
You know what? The itching is driving me nuts though right now. Hold on. Anyway, yeah. So I think it's so important to stay. Like my job now is to stay consistent because that's going to lead me to Oz. If I keep, like, with the ADD brain, you go all over the place. But if I keep doing that, I just want to stay present and be whole. And wholeness is all that's here. So just to remind myself. Anyway, Mars, you do what now
I'm,
you
I just was going to mention something too, Sharon. You say the ADHD brain is,
ADD. I have the
driving
other.
you crazy.
Yeah.
That's the ADHD brain is more likely closer to the truth and reality, because uh, it's it's focusing on what's now, what's now, what's now, what's now, what's now.
Yeah, you're right.
So what's now is this and what's now is that, and
Yeah.
so you're just seeing things in the moment. Whereas, what how we think we prefer to be is that I'm set my mind on this and this is what I concentrate on and I focus on this and this is what I'm looking at and I'm not paying attention to the now.
Right.
I'm in a place where I'm trying to control myself,
Right.
control my mind, control my thinking, keep myself focused on one thing when in reality, of course, in the dream, everything's happening all at once. So
Right.
that's the real clear picture of the brain of the mind of the ego is just seeing everything happening all at once and focusing on this. And so it's not a bad thing. it's just,
A waste. The waste.
well, it's just more natural, actually. It's more natural. We have to concentrate and work hard
Right,
to,
I used to do that.
and that's not natural. Having to work hard to keep your mind straight, that's
Yeah.
not natural.
Well, I did
That-
want to drop my daughter at school. Some part of me did, but then I was on to something else.
yeah,
Isn't that funny?
you were in
You
the
know what?
moment.
I can
Yeah,
relate to
yeah,
that. Yeah, you were onto something else. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's what happens because the mind just doesn't shut up, really.
yeah.
yeah,
But being in the moment, there's nothing wrong with being in the moment, because in the moment is the only place where anything is happening. So, and it's the planning for the future, which is telling
Right,
me what exit to take. It's the
right,
planning for the future and the remembering of
yeah,
the past,
yeah,
because this is the exit I took yesterday.
right.
Um, but that's not in the now moment. And I'm
right.
not saying one way or the other, which is preferable. But if you want to work within the dream,
Hmm.
and the make things work in the dream, you have to force yourself to do things in a way that's unnatural for
Right.
the ego mind. It's just unnatural. So, and I don't know even if I'm coming out very clear here,
Yeah, you are.
but
No, you
but
are. You are. Yeah, the habit. It's a habit. You're changing a habit.
yeah, well, but what is the habit? The habit is being in the moment.
Yeah, that's
And
it.
and isn't that the most natural way to be? And isn't
Yes,
that what we're
yes,
supposed to be, is in the
yes,
now?
yes.
So we're not supposed to be thinking about the future or the past.
Right,
Now, what the difference is, and I think, I've had some conversations with people recently about, how what Jesus is telling us in the course is, when you learn to think with me, you will not have to think at all.
right. Because
You're
I'm
not
on.
going to have to think, what's my exit, because I'm driving the car. You're
Right,
not going to think about, what to fix for dinner, because that dinner was fixed a long time ago at the time of the tiny mad idea. Everything was already done. So
right.
all we're doing is just following the script, and you don't have to, it's on a track. It's like a train, it's on a track. It's not like a car on the highway that can veer off into the ditch. It's on a track, and it's going a certain direction, and it's going to get to its destination. That's the way, that's the dream, that's the illusion, how it's set up. So,
Mhm.
once you learn to let the Holy Spirit just be in charge, then you can just take your hands off the wheel, because I'm not suggesting that if you're driving right
Yeah,
now, but but literally, um all of these things are happening without our intervention. We don't have to, I need do nothing. I love that. I need do nothing except not to interfere.
And you said it the other day. I was listening again. You said interfere means enter, like in enter.
Enter fear.
Yeah, yeah.
mm,
You need not
Because
interfere. Yeah.
yeah, because when I interfere, I have to try to control things.
Right.
And fear, and there's no need for me to try to control. It's a dream. The only thing that I need to do is allow the Holy Spirit to be in charge. I need do nothing is a literally what Jesus tells us.
This was so helpful because I have an issue with, I guess it's worthiness, but it's just like, the habit mind, which is the habit energies, I run back to as if it's going to help me, and it never does. It just makes me, it amps up the system that I'm in. And when I'm with Jesus in the now, nothing really bothers me because I'm just watching it all. Even the itching, I can watch. I can watch the character itch, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you could not be experiencing it as the body, because what is the itching telling you? The itching is telling you that the nerves are being stimulated. Why are
Right.
the nerves being stimulated? They're being stimulated by what you're thinking in your mind are these little creatures or these little things that have come into your body, these histamines that have come into your body that are now attacking certain parts of your body. And you can imagine it, you can see it in your mind,
Right.
and the experience uh, is actually coherent with that. So yeah, it makes sense. I'm being attacked from, these little histamines, and that's what's making me itch. Well, is it at the nerve ending that's happening? No, it's happening in the brain. All of these things are happening in the brain. So, or the central nervous system, in
Right.
general. So, this is, if you're, I mean, if you stub your toe, your toe hurts, but where do you feel the hurt? You feel it in your brain. You take an aspirin or take a pain pill or something. Where does it go? Does it go to your toe and say, stop hurting? Or does it go to your brain and say, this no longer, that these are not the droids you're looking for, you know?
Right. Yeah, I hear you. No, it's true.
So where is all this happening? It's not, it's happening in the mind. All of it is happening in the mind. And, that's why, these saints, these people that, fast for, weeks at a time, or, sit and meditate, whatever it is, they're doing that because they're in their mind. They're not in the world. They're not in their body. Marcy, yeah, please go ahead.
I was thinking about when I think I might have mentioned it at some point, but I had to have an implant put in, and it shouldn't have taken very long to drill the hole, except I have an exceptionally hard jaw. And it seemed like it was an hour or two. It was over an hour, I know that. And the doctor that was working on me, he could not believe this. And he kept saying, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. This is just taking forever. And at one point, I had to imagine Jesus laying on top of me, keeping me calm. I had to project that onto him, but it worked to be in that place of like, both the doctor and I felt very helpless. And it was a really awful experience to be drilled for that long amount of time. Um, but it did help in some way. So that might be something you could do, Sharon, if it works for you, is to ask him to hold your hand, or
Yeah,
whoever that source of
that's a
comfort is.
lot. When I say a lot, I don't do it as a practice. When I'm upset, I will turn to him and just say
Yeah.
that. And I
Yeah.
feel presence, and it does calm the system. But
Okay.
there's this like habit when I'm not feeling well, that
Right.
seems to get a little like the system goes. So I'm coming in now and saying, well, this session that the three of us had was very helpful for me, because my goal is to stop, to knock it all off. I can't get rid of the ego. The ego goes when it
Right.
goes, but I can make a decision. And even if I'm uncomfortable, and it's a new habit to just stay in the present.
Yeah.
For the most part, the ego doesn't want you in the present. So you have to look at that and say, well, why does it's just thought? So I'm believing the ego's me while it's talking.
Yeah.
It's talking to itself. So it seems pretty easy, at this
Yeah.
point.
Well, it's hard to remember, especially when you got some part of you working against you. Just
Yeah, Zen talks about that a lot in this book. I'll tell you that. He
Well,
talks about that the part of you that doesn't want this gets stronger and stronger.
yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, and so
Vicious to vicious.
you don't want to push up against it. You want to allow it to have its say, and then go the other way. That's all. Go the other way means just look at the space.
Right.
and something interesting that you might try, Sharon, and I'm not sure if this, because I don't know, but it has helped me in the past when I've been in pain. And there's been some times when I've been some pretty excruciating pain
Mm.
from things that happened, that I when I first had my accident where I broke my knee and had all that happen to me.
Right.
I came to understand that the pain was either remembered or anticipated. Either
Ooh,
I was remembering pain and then thinking, oh, it's going to be painful like this, or it's going to continue to be painful like this, or whatever. And
right.
when I was able to focus myself and get into, what is happening right now in this very instant, I realized that right now in this very instant, I'm not experiencing pain. The pain that I experience is the memory of pain
Yes.
and the projection of future pain,
Right.
thinking I'm going to be, oh man, I'm going to be hurting like this in a minute. I'm going to be hurting like this tomorrow. I'm going to keep hurting like this because, this is, until they tell me, oh, it's supposed to stop hurting now. And then I'll say, oh, it feels better now. But what happened to me, and it is really kind of remarkable actually, is that especially with my knee, I learned to just be in the moment with it and not
Right.
experience it as pain,
Yeah.
just experience it as, this is busted up here, and all these little pieces of bone and whatever that are here are going, hey, that's not right. And I'm perceiving it as being negative and painful, but when I look at it, it's just, it's like you spilt the milk on the floor, you dropped something on the floor and you need to pick it up. That's all. It's just something that got a little out of hand, needs to be fixed up. That's all. And with my knee, especially, and they were like, they couldn't believe it. They were like, you must have tremendous, pain tolerance. I'm like, I don't know. I never did before.
Yeah,
But
well,
I
it's
do now
mind
because
training.
I'm not experiencing it as pain. I'm
Right.
just experiencing it as a sensation.
Yes. If you change even the words, it helps.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And it just reminds me of my son's father. He gave me a sweater, and it was a wool sweater, and I'm allergic to wool. And I put it on, and I'm like, all of a sudden, just itching all over. I'm like, oh my God, I can't wear this thing. It's just itching me all over. He goes, well, really, think about it. It's like it's just little tingling. All it's doing is making your skin tingle a little bit. And think about that. That if you look at it as kind of a pleasant thing. Now, this guy was no philosopher. I'm guaranteeing you that, but he definitely had he knew that. He knew that he could shift his perception of the what was happening, and actually enjoy the itching of the sweater. Um, I tried it, and for a while I could do it, but if I got irritated or upset or thought about something else, it would start itching again, and so I would like, well, I'm just not wearing this sweater because it's too much hard work.
You have to surrender to all of it. It's all
Yeah.
surrender. It's surrender. And it's the thing that I really saw this morning. I think it was Kenneth Price that I had copied something on Facebook. He was writing, you have to realize you know nothing. That's the whole thing. If you know nothing in every moment and ask, like, I see that as a gift. Like, I don't know. Or that you were wrong about everything. That's the hard one for the ego. But that's what I'm seeing. Does that make sense, girls?
Yeah.
Knowing
Absolutely.
knowing
Yeah.
nothing seems to put you in like that curiosity. And
Yes.
only the spirit is, that's the right mind is curious. Like, I wonder why I got this. I guess I'll be curious about this. So it's all about really, it's mind training. It's total mind training, but it's also the uh, the ability to be willing to work. It seems like a lot more work for me to remember all this, but in the end, it becomes a habit. That's all.
Right. And yeah, it does seem like a lot of work because you have a lot of resistance going on that you
Yes.
have to work against. And this is something that uh we were reading that Marshall Rosenberg book last night, so good.
Yeah.
But what I was getting out of a lot of it was that it's the emptying ourselves of the preconceived notions what it wasn't the Marshall book. I'm sorry. It was the Resurrection Consciousness book. That was the later meeting I went to.
Right.
In talking about removing all the things that we have begun to think define us, those preconceived notions of who we are and what is right and what is good and who did what and who, everything about whatever it is that we believe is happening. It's letting go of those notions and turning to and opening up a space then for
Right.
these new things to be. If we don't open up a space for these new things to be, there's no place for them to go. They're going to have to work around. They're going to have to squeeze around, that, I hate my Aunt Gertrude because she, didn't give me $100 for my birthday or whatever it is. It's going to have to squeeze around all those things to try to come, and it's going to have to try to forgive this thing, let this thing go. When in reality, I can just say, hey, who gives a crap about Aunt Gertrude? If I don't love her for, being who she is right now, then that's the issue. But, what she did for my birthday means nothing. But but letting go of those things that I think should happen or should have happened or should
Right.
have happened, or it could have been this way, or all of my ideas, let go of them
Yeah.
because they're meaningless. And
They're
then once I
meaningless.
let them
But
go,
see, I still believe there's some meaning. I must, because I
well,
still,
of course you still believe because you haven't let them go. That's the
right,
thing. You have to look at them and
right,
say, what does this really mean?
right.
What does this really mean?
Yeah.
And when you look at it and you analyze it, look, what does this really mean? You recognize it doesn't mean a damn thing. It's a story you made up in your mind.
Right, right.
But
Yeah.
until you look at it and decide that,
Right. You have to like
it
make
will
it
it will it will carry you, it will keep a stranglehold on
right,
you, and you'll never be able to let it go.
right.
So, it's the looking and the judging not. That's
Yeah,
it. Just
that's
look at it
it.
and don't judge it.
Right,
And then you can let it go. And when you let it go, then it doesn't hold you anymore. It doesn't even exist.
right. Yeah, I'm gonna have to just practice because it's a matter of me suffering or not. It's just
Yeah,
it's like why would I
yes.
want to suffer for something that doesn't mean anything? You know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love that. All right. Well, the time for this particular meeting is over.